Welcome to Ed Fluential Sports, where passion meets precision. As I'm your host, Ed, diving deep into the plays, players, and stories shaping the game. And AEW Double or Nothing. I see a lot of people calling it pay-per-view of the year. High praise for this pay-per-view, and rightfully so. This was an amazing pay-per-view. This truly was elite. This was all elite wrestling. Truly what AEW is about. Is it the best pay-per-view of the year? For me, personally, no. I think it's second. Number one for me is New Japan Wrestle Kingdom. I know that was a while ago, but still, even opening the year, how New Japan did, they opened it up with a hot start. So I still got to give it to Wrestle Kingdom. But with the pace that AEW has been at, they can definitely have, like, Double or Nothing was nearly perfect. The next pay-per-view might be even better because I'm trying to see what's next. Because before All In, we got Forbidden Door. Forbidden Door is going to be where the Owen Hart men's and women's finals take place to see who is going to All In for title opportunities. So Forbidden Door, and then that's when they got to New Japan, the CMLL. So it's going to be some dope matches. So it just depends on how they build it because now the build starts for that. Then I don't know if they have another pay-per-view in between that because I know it was some rumored, but we'll just find out about that. But second best pay-per-view of the year so far when it comes to all of wrestling, New Japan Wrestle Kingdom is still one for me. But yeah, it was really just one thing that I had an issue with, which I talked about in the shorts that I made. It was Shane Taylor's promotions losing again on the pre-show because it's like they never win, but they can be so much more. And that's a 10-man tag team match. They can't win against the conglomeration and Boom and Doom. Are we serious? But with that being said, let's get into and then the other pre-show match. It was two other ones. I'm only going to talk about one of them because the other one I did talk about a bit in my short, Divine Dominion versus Zeta Steel via Van. That was cool. It was whatever. But it was like they actually going against some real competition now. So it tested them. And now they got Ty J going after them. So they finally building something with the tag scene. But let's get into the one pre-show match I didn't make a short about, which was the Death Riders, consisting of Claudio, Willa Yuta, and Daniel Garcia taking on the Ops, featuring Anthony Bowens, Hook, and Shibata. This was a good match. Yuta and Bowens got the match started. They both went for early pins. So both filling out process, seeing who can get the upper hand early. And then it was Shibata. He was just unfazed by Danny Garcia's elbows. He was just eating them. Like Danny Garcia's elbows had no effect on him. He was just eating them. And then Claudio and Shibata, they finally went at it. And that's what Shibata wanted the whole time. He wanted to go at Claudio with them being the two hardest hitters in the match. Anthony Bowens had some good, did some good stuff here. Everybody did their part well. What's the name? Hook. He got launched into two different turnbuckles. Hook is a really good seller. But this was a cool match. The Death Riders did end up getting the win. So that was cool. My only thing is I don't really know what the ops are. Are they faces or that's what's unclear about this? Because I feel like the Death Riders are still healed, but it's like they healed, but it's different from what they were last year. So it's whatever. It was a good match, and it made sense because they will face off again later in the night with because Osprey is technically a Death Rider now. But that was a good pre-show match. They did a good job furthering that story there. Marina Shafir didn't get involved either, so Marina Shafir didn't even interfere, so that's not an excuse. So they didn't need to bring another woman out there to even the odds. So, hey. But now let's get into the main show. Let's get into the important stuff. First match, I Quit Street Fight for the AEW tag titles. Christian Cage, Adam Copeland teaming up to take on FTR. This was a really good tag match. It was just one spot I didn't like. It didn't take away from the show. It was just a really silly spot. Christian's arm was in the cinder block, and then Dax had hit the cinder block with a chair, but his arm wasn't unfazed. It's like it didn't hit his hand or nothing. Because the first thing they went for the cinder block, I think they botched it or something. I don't know if that was planned or not, but that was a really dumb spot. But this was a cool match, though. This was a good match. Both these teams got good chemistry. The best part about it was Beth Copeland. Beth Copeland returning because FDR had took her out with a concerto, so her coming back and taking the bumps, pulling Stokely in the way so he gets speared through the flaming table. So having her involved, it made sense since they kept mentioning her. And then Dax throwing her into the steel steps because equal rights, equal fights. And Dax did start it. So it would make sense that he just showing no remorse. And then Christian and Cope finally got the tag titles the first time that they've been AEW tag team champions. And this is probably their last tag team run together, probably their last run in general. but this makes so much sense. FDR had a good reign, but I felt like the last couple of defenses they could have lost, and nobody would have had a problem with it. They are a good team, but this tag team title reign had ran its course. And so you got new tag team champions, Christian, Adam Copeland. Christian Cage is hilarious. The stuff, because obviously it's a quit match, so they getting so the microphones is in their face for most of the match. And then they had, I think it was Dax was begging him to quit, and then Christian was like, "I fucked your mother," and then the match kept going. So that's a really hilarious line. I forgot who posted on Instagram, but I reposted that because that's some of the funniest thing. Like that is just so funny. And so yeah. With that being said, uh, the most important thing aside from the tag titles, Christian got his watch back. So that was dope. Now moving on to the next match, Kazuchika Okada taking on Konosuke Takeshita. This was a fantastic match. I enjoyed everything about this from start to finish. It was like once Takeshita came out, the crowd was cheering for him. The crowd was going crazy for Takeshita. I was like, this is really the face turn. The match hasn't even happened yet, and it's like, wow, he just turned face before the match even started. It's like I figured he would because we got to get people away from the Don Callis family. There's too many people in that group, but I'm like, yeah, and commentary is acknowledging it. Like, like the fans was on Takeshi's side the entire time because you, like, when it's heel versus heel, it's hard to decipher who they're gonna cheer for. No, they were fully behind Takeshi, and I love that. Was Okada went for the Rainmaker and Takeshita went for the Raging Fire both early into the match. Those were both the first moves they attempted. So both of them, they was out for each other because they want to be the top of the Don Callis family. Well, we seen what happened after the match, but they both want to be at the top in general. But Okada Takeshi, they did their thing. It was some cool spots in this match. It wasn't no blood or anything from what I remember. Yeah, if it was, it would have been on my notes, but it wasn't no blood. Okada eventually did hit the Rainmaker on the apron, which was a crazy spot. And then he wanted to go for like a pile driver on the outside, but Don Callis stopped him because he wanted to protect his assets. And then Takeshita, he did something. He did like a neck breaker on the outside, and then Don Callis yelled at him, and Takeshi's like, "I'm trying to win the title. I don't care what you say. I'm leaving here with a win." So Takeshi complete because it's not like Don Callis said anything to him. He just said something to Okada because once Takeshi he did it instantly. Okada was setting it up. Takeshi was already in motion, so Don Callis couldn't just get up out of his seat off of commentary. Like aside from that, Don Callis didn't really interfere because he wanted to protect his assets. So he started yelling at Takeshi, and then Takeshi did an elbow strike and like this weird German suplex. It was I don't even know what to call it, but it was some sort of German suplex. But Okada did end up kicking out. Because Okada he can take those moves. So it was a flurry of moves. It was like 2 straight minutes where they just kept going back and forth with moves. But it made sense for this match and their styles. And then eventually Takeshi hit the Okada had kicked out of Takeshi hit the Rainmaker. He stole Okada's finisher. Then he did a power drive. Okada kicked out at one. I was like, okay. And then Takeshi hit the Raging Fire. 1, 2, 3. He gets the win, and he is the new international champion. So that's match of the year candidate. The story with Don Callis being involved, both of them trying to be at the top. Takeshi just doing anything, winning by any means necessary, ignoring Don Callis, telling him off, saying that I'm gonna do it my way, and then the stuff that happened post match with then to catch the winning, turning him face before the match even starts. Like the fans turned him face basically, which that was already the plan anyways. But the fans they know how to play. AEW fans know how to play into the story, and they knew that Takeshita was turning face. They knew that he had to get a guy that they cheered for. They did that. Then after the match, you got Rocky Romero, Mark Davis, Don Callis, and Okada. Then you thinking something finna happen. He definitely finna get jumped. Then Cal Fletcher make his return. He come back out there, and then Cal Fletcher lays what's the name? Well, he embraced with Takeshita as the Don Callis and them lead the ring, and then they hold each other's hands up. Fletcher clotheslines him, and then that's the turn. I'm like, wow. Like we got to get people out the Don Callis family. It's simply too many people, but that the story is there, even though it's too many people in the Don Callis family. They're the most important ones there. So yeah, Takeshita, Okada, match of the year candidate. That's definitely in the top five now. After that, that they went crazy. to catch the new international champion and new babyface. I think it's gonna be a really good run for him. Definitely run back him and MJF with because the time that they face Takeshita wasn't really on anything at that time. But now he done got some rank in AEW. You can run that back with him. Well, not right now because MJF just got the title back. But in the future, whenever MJF lose his Triple B, him and Okada, that'll be a really good feud to have. Don't do it now because there's no point in doing champ versus champ. That's really stupid. But let's move on to the next match. The women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament just had one match, which was Athena versus Mina Shirakawa. This match was kind of short. It wasn't, and there's nothing wrong with the match being short because it had solid time, but it was shorter compared to the other matches. But I'm not mad at that. I just didn't get as many notes for this match because it was really like Amina, she kept spamming the Enziguri like early in the match. I'm like, okay. It was still a good match though. And then Athena did a crazy stomp to Mina, come out a current stomp. That's not a current stomp. That's something completely different. Like she stomped her face into the mat. So that was a crazy spot. But yeah, Athena did her thing. Mina hit a sling blade. I don't know why that was a memorable spot in this match, but it was. Yeah, then the stomp came after the sling blade. Then what's the name? Mina hit a Hurricane Rana, followed and it spiked Athena's head right into the mat, and then she followed that up with a seatbelt cover and nearly won, but Athena was able to kick out. But Athena did end up getting the win. She did a jumbo tombstone, then she hit the O face, and she ended up getting the win to advance to the second round. This was a predictable match. It was good, predictable, nothing wrong with that. But Athena advances to the second round, and it's now 2 wins away from getting a guaranteed title shot at All In. So we'll see. But good match. Yeah, nothing crazy about this. Like I said, I didn't really get too many notes for this match because it wasn't really nothing going on. And then at this time, the NBA and NHL game was going on, so I was getting more notes for both of those games at the time than this match. But the match that follows, Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly. I think O'Reilly's name is spelled a little differently than this, but it's whatever. But for the Continental Championship, Moxley taking on Kyle O'Reilly. No time limit. Everybody banned from ringside. Basic collar and elbow tie up to start the match. But I also didn't get as many notes for this match, but it was some funny stuff in here. Jim Ross kept calling Kyle O'Reilly a kid, like he hasn't been wrestling for like 10, 15 years at this point, which I found very funny. But it was a lot of submission holds applied in this match, and it makes sense because they kept putting a heavy emphasis on Kyle O'Reilly making John Moxley tap in the pass, then push him to the time limit this past Dynamite, which is why we got here in the first place. Then there was no interference. Nobody came out there to break the rules or anything like that. And then it was a battle of submissions. That's what it came down to, and who was going to be more hurt. It was Kyle who was hurt first, so Moxley was able to focus on his leg, and that was a good portion of the match. Obviously, it was still moves that they did, but Moxley focusing on that knee, I think that was cool. That made sense. And then what's O'Reilly? He did the same clothesline that Moxley did when he was in WWE as Dean Ambrose when he went into the when he leaned back into the ropes and then he ran full speed and hit the clothesline. Because Moxley don't really do that now, but in WWE when he was Ambrose, he did it, so that was cool. But Moxley also did a clothesline at that same time to counter it, so they double clothesline each other. That took both of them down. Then that's where the match started to wind down, started to end. They both had like ankle locks applied, but then Moxley ended up getting the upper hand because he had been focusing on O'Reilly's knee, and Moxley did win by submission, making Kyle O'Reilly tap out. He retains the Continental Championship. Then they shake hands post-match because Moxley knew that Kyle O'Reilly could take him to the limit, and he did once again. Even though it was no time limit, it was still like, yeah, you could have, like that could have been, he could have lost that match for sure. So he recognized that Kyle O'Reilly, yeah, he's like that, and he showed respect because obviously he was frustrated and pissed that he could never beat this guy, that he kept losing, that he kept tapping out to him. So I enjoyed that. Next match, what was considered a dream match, at least for Ospreay and some of the fans. Never wasn't a dream match in my books because I really didn't care. I'm sure it was always going to be a good match whenever they had it, which it was last night. And this was the other Death Riders versus Ops thing because Samoa Joe representing the Ops, Ospreay representing the Death Riders for now. But on the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament, they had two matches and they were back to back. Ospreay did get the win here. It started hot out the gate. Will Ospreay went for he clotheslined him in the corner, then he went for a 450 splash. I'm like, damn. Like he started this fast. Like he started this fast. He started with a 450, and then Samoa Joe, he did his thing where somebody tried to do a move and he just walk away. I always love that spot from Samoa Joe. Um, yeah, Osprey started chopping Joe a few times. Like Osprey, you're not winning that battle trying to chop Samoa Joe. You're just not getting that done. But it was some cool stuff. Joe went for like a Boston. He attempted a Boston Crab, then turned it into a face lock of some sorts, but that wasn't enough. Osprey was able to get out of it, and Osprey somehow hit the Styles Clash. Then he hit the hidden blade. I think Joe kicked out of one, so he hit another hidden blade, but this time did it. So he hit the hidden blade right to his neck, which hurts way more than if he does it from the front. So he was able to pin Joe, keep him down for the 1, 2, 3, and advance to the second round. Like I said, I got Osprey winning the whole thing, and I got him being in the finals against the next winner of the second match, and they're on opposite sides of the bracket. So they will likely meet in the finals. The most dangerous man in AEW, Swerve Strickland, taking on the most wanted man in AEW, Bandito. Swerve gets the win here. He advances to the second round. Uh, yeah, makes sense. Like I said, Swerve, Osprey, that's what I got in the finals of this. But Bandito, got to give him credit. He did a stomp to Swerve's spine early in the match. I'm like, okay, getting off to a hot start. Then he did a frog splash, but Swerve was able to kick out. Didn't think Swerve was going to lose, but it was some good near falls in this. It was an entertaining match. Bandito, Swerve both did their thing. Swerve did a Swerve stunt from the top rope, if I'm not mistaken. He got some crazy elevation on that too. So I was like, yeah, this match was cooking. Bandito, he cold. I just wish he would have lost to Blake Christian at Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. I get that him and Athena both had to retain because they got to build momentum for the AEW pay-per-view. But I feel like both of them could have lost and it wouldn't have hurt their stock because with Athena, she was in a match that was called Survival of the Fittest. So it was a 6-woman elimination match essentially. So if she would have lost there and multiple people beating up on her, I feel like that could have been fine. Then Bandito was going against Blake Christian, who's a heel who can win in some slimy way or whatever. So I feel like both of them could have lost their Ring of Honor titles because they need to both be featured more prominently on AEW. But Bandito, a good match. I do think he needs to lose that Ring of Honor World title soon, but he has been doing his thing. I've been checking out some of his reign. It is some entertaining stuff. But next match, the last women's match on the card, Tekla taking on Jamie Hayter, Chris Statlander, and Hikaru Shida in a fatal four-way for the AEW Women's World Championship. Out the gate, they all jumped Tekla, which is kind of crazy because I know she's a champ, but it's not like she's big and bad. Like, if anything, you would think they would jump Chris Statlander since she's the bigger woman. But I get taking Chris out the Tekla out the occasion because she's champ and she don't got to be pinned. But I feel like it means, number one, it means more if you pin the champ. And number two, Chris Statlander was the most physically imposing woman in the match. Y'all were beating up on the smallest woman. So I had Tekla retain it going into the match anyways. But then there was a spot where before I get to that spot, it was Hayter did a double clothesline. Well, she did a clothesline to two people, and then Statlander and Sheeta, they kept getting into it, staring off. Then eventually Sheeta slapped her. Chris Statlander just started punching her a few times. That partnership was never gonna last long. Like I said, the crowd with Sheeta feels like the heel. It would just make sense, but they were just going back and forth. And then it was a spot where it's like all four of them in the ring with each other, and all four of them just slapping and punching each other, doing their thing. Then Hayter did a backbreaker and a Haterade. I forgot the who, but I'm pretty sure the pin had got broken up after that. Then that's where the slap spot had happened. So I said that out of order. But Chris Statlander did a big kick to somebody. Then she did back-to-back super kicks and a tombstone to Tekla, but Sheeta was there to break up the pin to keep the match going. And then but after that, Hayter and Sheeta had a double clothesline on the outside that took both of them out the match. And it wasn't like the match dragged on for 10 minutes. The match ended like a minute later because Tekla and Chris went at it, and then Tekla ended up hitting the stomp on Chris Statlander to retain the AEW Women's World Title. So technically retaining, it was the right decision. It made the most sense. She'd winning, it would have been like, why? Like, I don't see the point. I know she just came back, but there's other stuff she can do. Chris Statlander, she didn't need another run with it. Jamie Hayter would have been cool because I think Alex Windsor is in the women's Owen Hart tournament. So that could have been a potential finals matchup. That could have caused some tension between them. But technically retaining made the most sense. And the sisters with sins didn't get involved. Alex Windsor didn't get involved. So wasn't no interference in this either. Now this was the most fun match. It wasn't the best match, no, but it was the most fun because it was entertaining. It made you laugh and it had some funny spots in it. The Stadium Stampede featured the Hurt Syndicate, the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho, Jack Perry, and Kenny Omega taking on the Man, the Dogs, Andrade, and Mark Davis in a 7-on-7 Stadium Stampede match. The only problem was it was too many people. I felt like 7 is a lot of people to have, but there was some really great spots, some good cameos, some funny moments. You got cameos from Luther, Tony Storm's Butler, got a cameo from Ricochet, then something else from the Invincible Man or something like that. Sagnam Singh had a cameo as well, so you got 4 cool cameos. You got a spot where Mark Davis, he nearly got hit by Jack Perry's bus because as soon as Mark Davis spotted it, he got out the way, but Jack Perry was going full speed with his Jurassic Express bus and nearly hit him, so he had to find his way back to the ring. Ricochet was getting beat up with tennis balls. He was getting tennis balls just thrown at him, and he was getting hit by a big tennis racket by Chris Jericho that got from Luther. So that was crazy. He was just getting beat up with tennis balls. Then Jericho suplexed him on tennis balls when he got back to the ring. And then there was a spot with a shopping cart and a trash can. And so, like, this match was just really funny and entertaining because the spots were really stupid. The Hurt Syndicate's team, Jericho, they all wrestled in suits the entire match. Kenny Omega never took his tie off. He wrestled in the tie for the entire match. And then Ricochet and the Man, they had on baseball jerseys. They went in different places. They went to the trainer staff. Clark Connors got beat up between the escalator. He got sent up. I forgot who sent him up, but Clark Connors was getting beat up between the escalators, so he got sent up. Then he gets met by the Bucks and gets super kicked. Then he goes back down the escalator. So seeing him get beat up between the escalators was really funny. And then Ricochet was finna get pinned by Jericho because they kept hitting their moves on him at the end. But one of the guys in the Man, I forget who, I think it was Bishop Kong, he pushed Ricochet out the way to sacrifice himself. And then Team Jericho did a 7-way super kick. The first time Bobby Lashley's ever did a super kick in his life. They did a 7-way super kick. And then Bishop Kong ended up taking the pin, so Team Jericho gets the win. But great guy, sacrificed himself to save his homie Ricochet. Then he took the punishment. And then before that, because they had hit their finishers on the other people too, because Kenny did the V trigger on Andrade. The Young Bucks took out what's the name? I think Mark Davis. I also got a Luchasaurus cameo. He dressed as a blonde woman to distract Andrade. Then he spit in his face like some mist or something. So that was a cool spot. The match wasn't the most technically sound match, but it was just really entertaining and a funny match that kept you laughing throughout the match, which you just need sometimes. And the main event, MJF versus Darby Allin. This was a great match. MJF and Darby have always had good matches with each other. They know how to put on a show. They know how to put on a banger of a match. Darby headlock takeover to start the match. They always, in their feud, that's gonna be forever prominent, that headlock takeover. And we've seen it a few times, seen the call out for the headlock takeover a few times. So that was cool. The MJF, he powerbombed Darby on his he had 2 crazy power bombs. One was on his knee, it's like a neck breaker. Then the other one was on the apron. And then Darby hit his head hard a few times in this match, which he started bleeding. And those wasn't planned blood spots from, if I'm not mistaken. He just started bleeding because, yeah, like I said, those was not planned from what I know. So, yeah, them spots was crazy that Darby was taking. And then the stipulation going into this match was if MJF lost, he had to go bald. So, yeah, MJF, he had dropped Darby on the steel steps. It was some type of move. I forgot what it was because commentators also didn't say the moves. I was trying to write it down, so I was like, okay, that's nice. Then Darby knocked out a cameraman because MJF had moved him to the way. I would assume that's planned. If not, then you got to sue MJF for that. But I would assume that's planned and that he was a guy that's a trained guy to take bumps. So they had to check on him. And when the ref was distracted, Darby hit a low blow and tried to win like that a second time, but MJF was able to kick out. So that didn't end the match. So like this one, it went longer than the last match they had, which the last match it made more sense for it to go be that short. But then Darby's body eventually gave out by the end of the match. He had the Scorpion Death Lock locked in, but then he had just fell. He just couldn't keep it applied anymore. So he went, what's the name? He fell down. MJF took advantage of it. I think MJF hit his finisher. Did he? No, he did the headlock takeover, I think. And yeah, he still wanted to win with the headlock takeover. And MJF ended up getting the win. I was trying to see, did he do the heat seeker on the steel steps? Or was it something else he did? I don't think it was heat seeker. But MJF, he ended up winning to become a 3-time AEW World Champion. And he gets his Triple B back. So, MJF, what a match. What a match by him and Darby. This was great. And it's not even the end of the show. MJF, he's just taunting. He's standing on the stretcher that Darby is on. Then boom, out comes Kevin Knight. So MJF, he backs all the way up to the ramp. And Kevin Knight hits the UFO splash on Darby on the stretcher and pushes the stretcher over. And every commentary shock, fans can't believe it. I'm like, this makes sense. It kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it don't. Because for one, Kevin Knight is already TNT champion. So him turning on Darby is kind of stupid. It's like him turning heel in general doesn't make sense at the time because he's still TNT champion. Number two, you lost to what's the name? You lost to Darby, so I get it. You want to get your get back against him, and you beat MJF. But if you feel like you could beat MJF, why not stay face and try to go after him again? Even though I hate the champ versus champ things, you already beat MJF, so go after him a second time and try to win a second time, this time for the world title. So the heel turn is kind of nonsensical because I feel like it's just way too late to do it. Because his promos, he does give off like an arrogant, cocky guy, but it's like, was this the right time to do it? I feel like this was kind of random. But hey, AEW Double or Nothing, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. This was a great pay-per-view. This, not just great, this was truly amazing. This was all elite wrestling. Like I said, if Shane Taylor's Promotions would have won on the pre-show, I would have gave it a 10. But for me, Wrestle Kingdom is still pay-per-view of the year. Shout out New Japan. But AEW, they get second best at this point. This is the second best pay-per-view of the year with all wrestling included. So I got to give them their credit. They did their thing with this. This was special. Okada Takeshita, that was the best match of the night. Easily. One of the best matches of the year. They did their thing. And seeing Beth return was dope because it played into that story well. People saying AEW don't tell stories. If you're still saying that, you just lying at this point. But with that being said, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, comment your thoughts, and share for others to see.